Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, Mamiwa, yes.
Okay, afternoon, everyone. Where I am, it's about, almost 2 p.m. I'm in South Africa. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present my thinking around, of course, like the chair has said, exploring the synergy between data-driven business models and sustainability in the digital economy. So in terms of my research interest, I am one of the people that researches on strategic management. So I was keenly listening in on the first presentation by the madam that was looking at, strategic management because that is my area of interest. So for the last 2 years, though, specifically, I have been looking at different aspects of the business models, which is why in today's presentation, I am going to look at specific business models that are called the DDBM, data-driven business models. I must say, Chair, that this is an abstract that I submitted, so I will be presenting from a perspective of this being a paper that is still to be developed. From when I submitted last year till now, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of literature review, so there is a sense of where the paper is going. However, regarding the presentation agenda, I will be following through the expectation of what an abstract should have, which is your orientation. It will have research methods, the contributions, implications managerially and academically, as well as the keywords that would come out of the final paper. Colleagues, regarding the research orientation, really one is looking at the angle of one is approaching this and what exactly is happening currently regarding business models as well as sustainability. Is there a possible synergy? If there is, what essentially and at what point would there be that synergy between the two big constructs of business models and sustainability? So in the context of business models, one would understand, especially in the world of strategy, that business models are still very critical and they still play a very central role to strategic management, in especially because you would have that long-term strategy. However, because of the reviews and the changes, some do their strategic reviews annually, some do them 6 monthly. In as often as the strategy of the company evolves and changes and gets adopted or reconfigured, so should be the business models. Hence, business models are part and parcel very much of the strategic management process. And then also regarding innovation, which is how then business models from where they come from, which is the evolution of business models, the traditional business models, where we're now looking at business models, innovation. So in terms of innovation of businesses and corporates which are encouraged to continue to reconfigure so that they become sustainable, you'd find that business models really play a critical role in that space, which is why even now looking at the fourth generational the generation that is, and we're moving to the fifth and even the sixth, then you'd find that business models need to adopt. Hence, we are now looking at data-driven business models to say what exactly in that space is happening regarding the era that we're living in. And really, through the continuous organizational success, business models are very central in that. However, this study really wants to extend the current thinking of the business models by ensuring that we emphasize on the role that they play within the organizational sustainability. How we do that is really focusing on the long-term viability, environmental responsibility of the organization, as well as we know that because of the United Nations SDG goals that are expected to have been achieved in the next coming of years, it is expected that companies need to be sustainable. Therefore, what would be the role of business models in that regard? So in the paper to be developed, one really would be looking at these three data-driven business models, which are your data as a service, predictive analytics, and Internet of Things data models. However, from where I'm thinking and where I am now, and looking at the literature review that I have looked at so far, I would not really want to look at the technicalities of those different DDBMs. However, I would want to then understand the outcome or the role they play in terms of the outcome and the output and the reasons and even how they really tie into the decision making and the running of the overall business. So not necessarily the technicalities of each DDBM, however, but what is the role and the input, and really how do they integrate into the overall running of the business. Now, looking at the research purpose, the study aims really to explore the future of business models. And with someone like myself who is looking into business models, it is an understanding that, as I have alluded before, that we come from the era of traditional business models, where we're really looking at just the processes, the profits, the resources, and the value propositions. Then we moved into an era of business model innovation. There is a concept of sustainable business model innovation. However, where we are now with the different types of organizations that are there, not so much the traditional organizations where there is a facility that we can all see. Businesses now, like your Uber businesses, your Airbnbs, you'd find that they are on a certain platform, a platform that we all cannot see, a platform that is digitized, a platform that is tech. So then what kind of business models would fit best into those types of the newer types of businesses? So really one is exploring the future of the business models in terms of the evolution and the path that they are taking in shaping the digital economy in which we live in. Of course, we want to investigate how business models align with sustainability, with regards as well to the third point, that is really exploring the specific SDGs that business models would fit into. That is going to be done through focusing on the role in advancing, the sustainability developmental goals, just to see really if there are specific SDGs that business models, in the context of linking it and integrating it with sustainability. We want to, foster innovation and growth while addressing critical environmental and societal changes, right? So, meaning, whilst we look at innovation, whilst we look at growth, whilst we look at, the success of the businesses economically, financially, how then so would that be in part of addressing the critical other aspects that, being a sustainable business, one would need to look into. And then, of course, like I have said, we want to focus on how then the business models would align with specific and sustainable principles to address, the societal challenges of the environments that we live in. Regarding the motivation of the study, it is to understand the intersection of business models, the innovation, the data-driven strategies, and in the aspect of sustainability. That's so because we would understand that sustainability now, as per the United Nations agenda, it has become very strategic in regarding, especially large corporates that you'd find that they're registered in the stock exchanges of the different respective countries. Sustainability becomes one of the strategic pillars that those organizations would need to conform to. So if that is the case, if then strategically sustainability is one component that would need to be, honored in terms of the strategy of the business, then this becomes an increasing pressure on businesses to adopt sustainable practices in line then with the different business models that would need to be adopted by those different organizations. And then also the motivation really is to offer a framework of integrating sustainability into business models, understanding the fact that there are frameworks that are out there that are existing regarding business models. There are frameworks existing that are regarding sustainability. So these are like standalones. What one wants to do is to offer a framework that integrates the two concepts into one, more so because one of the key aspects or elements of the business models is what we call resources, right? As I had mentioned with the traditional business models, it was processes, profits, value proposition, and resources. However, in one aspect of trying to understand exactly these data-driven business models, because these are like business strategies where data is the main asset. So data in this aspect is an asset. Data within this business model is a resource. So therefore, one would want to then understand this type of a resource, how it can be framed into the existing business models framework. Hence, then the reframing of existing, frameworks of sustainability and business models. Chair, regarding the research method, as I had said, that it's a developing paper. It would either, and this is where I would need my learned to assist me in terms of deciding on this, because initially I would have said that I wanted to do a systematic literature review 100%. And I'm just thinking that one as well, in terms of making a second paper out of the initial systematic literature review paper, just to understand firstly the context of things, what is happening in this regard, and also one would then want to go out into the field to test and see. And I was thinking that in my second paper to this, I would then do or conduct a mixed method study where it's qual and quant. But I do not know, maybe the views from the floor would be no, go straight into the field, find out exactly what is happening there, or no, indeed, just first find out the facts of what is happening around these areas. So in terms of the research method, initially it would be a matter of wanting to do paper one as a systematic literature review, and then the follow-up paper would then be dealing with going into the actual field to ascertain if what I have read is something that still stands in regards to the field. Main findings in as far as one would have read the literature is that the main thing is that data is the main strategic resource, which then throws what we know in the context of resources into the air, because this new resource is data, and we are saying because it's a new business model called the data-driven business model, therefore this resource, which is called data, is a resource that should be considered as part of the business model elements when one is sort of like breaking down what resources we're talking about, intangible and tangible resources. Then data should be one of the resources that should be mentioned. It's one of the resources that should be put through into the new frameworks that one would be suggesting. That is one very critical finding that one wants to really emphasize on. And then also data-driven business models do align indeed with certain SDG goals, which are the four that I have stated there: 8, 9, 12, and 17. SDG goal number 8 speaks to decent work and economic growth. SDG 9 speaks to industry, innovation, and infrastructure. 12 speaks to responsible consumption and production. Partnerships for goals is goal number 17. Just to mention one on how it would link really to data-driven business models, even though it's a sustainability goal, in the sense that when we talk about partnership for goals, this data-driven business model in line with sustainability speaks to promoting multi-stakeholder partnerships, because it does involve everybody. It involves people from government, industry, academia, and literally everyone. So in that regard, it does meet the requirements of SDG number 17, which promotes really partnerships for certain goals. In this regard, the goals of sustainability, which is environmental, societal, economic, in line as well with what then would be expected of the decisions that corporates and organizations are making. Looking into the practical, managerial, and or academic implications or inputs of this study, academically, there's quite a number of aspects that it would assist if this study is conducted successfully. Firstly, it would advance an existing strategic management theory, which one would understand that if you're speaking to strategic management theories, it would be the dynamic capabilities theory, it would be the resource-based view theory, and one would challenge them to say, within the RBV theory, please do consider the strategic resource of the data-driven business models, which is data. So those would be one of the implications in terms of advancing and even changing the status quo of existing theories. Just to pick on a second point, it would be a fact that, this study supports interdisciplinary views because it cuts across, right? We're talking about strategy, which is one field of study. It does touch on information systems, so we talk about technology, innovation, reconfiguration, and it also touches on another big scholar, which is sustainability. So really, it's one of the studies that supports interdisciplinary view because it cuts across different aspects. In terms of managerial implications, of course, one of the biggest contributions to it is the fact that because we're saying data, information, knowledge is the main strategic resource. So therefore, once there's enough data, then the right corporate people, the right decision makers will make informed decisions because they would have had enough information, ample knowledge at their hands in order to make strategic decisions of the business. And then also really on the aspect of ensuring that the company becomes competitive, having that competitive edge and having that competitive advantage, because as you know, if data is the biggest resource, data would not necessarily be available for everyone, but it would be very critical for the company to ensure that it protects its data and have the right knowledge in order to make sure that it becomes competitively advantaged against other competitors. So those would be, the line of thinking regarding, the contributions of this study. And then running into the second to last aspect would be the contributions, which number one, of course, it would be improve the understanding of sustainable business practices, because the study really cuts across, the different triple bottom line which is the social, the economic, the environment, on how businesses align their profits to long-term societal aspects. So indeed, however way you look at it, it does touch on business models and it touches across sustainability in terms of the benefit of the society at large. So these two, you'd find that, these two constructs or field of study, they do cut across each other in order to ensure ultimately that the company becomes sustainable. We also then want to look at how it provides insight into how businesses support sustainability, and also it provides an understanding of how business models inform innovative driven strategies. And just to expand on that, because business models, they examine the intersection between your the business models, your innovation, by ensuring that reconfiguration is essential, because reconfiguration continuously, so it ensures as the renewal in the whole organization, and that is very essential in responding to the dynamic environments that we live in. As you would know, what is happening in the world, no more are we living in a world that, or a society that is static. We now live in dynamic environments. So if we live, and if businesses and types of corporates that are out there are evolving so quickly, how then do we ensure that we become sustainable, by ensuring really that we have these business models that speak to the times that we are living in. So colleagues, that would be the line, or my thinking line in terms of this research. And of course the keywords would be the business models, the DDPM, data platform business models, and business sustainability. Chair and everyone, colleagues, thank you so much for your attention and listening in on my presentation.